Welcome to the golf edition of Hooked on Sport. This is South Australia's Golf Wrap, where we uncover the stories, personalities and moments that define golf across South Australia and beyond. It's time to talk golf with sports commentator Ben Hook and state golf representative Sophie Hilditch.
Good on you, Wallace. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hooked on Sport. I am Ben Hook. I'm in Adelaide. My co-host is Sophie Hilditch. What exotic part of the world do we find you in today? Soph, hello.
Hello. I think people are going to find this the weirdest European trip ever, but I'm currently in Malta, Ben, and I'm loving it. I love Malta. Yeah, it's stunning. It's beautiful. The culture here is insane. And also the swimming in all the glorious beaches when it's about 30 degrees is even better.
So most people who do a European tour, they're taking in Italy, France, Great Britain. You've gone Norway to Malta. Anywhere else in between? Some other exotic, Estonia or something like that?
No. You have it dead right. I went from Scandinavia all the way down to Malta. Well, I was in the UK at the start. You forgot London, but yeah, it's a bizarre trip. I will say I'm close to Italy now. Malta's close to Italy.
Yeah, it is. Well, I've got in-laws who are, on my mother's brother's wife is Maltese. So we've got quite a Maltese gathering when the extended family gets together. So I feel like I've got a little bit of a stake in Malta. Never been there. I'm stealing a line from our producer here, but the closest I've got to Malta is a packet of Maltesers, Soph. So anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying it. When are you home?
Get home on Thursday morning, so it's actually coming to a close of my trip, unfortunately. I think I've got 2 more days here. And we got to make this quick, man. We got to get to the next story because I'm about to hop on a boat and go over to the 3 cities and do some investigating in about 50 minutes. So you need to speed this up. Let's get going.
Sophie's star to get us underway, please, Sophie.
Well, Sophie's star, it's a bit of a random one because I know I think this podcast is going to be heavily focused on the US Open, which I've got to say, by the way, Ben, in Malta, I basically been listening to the radio and watching the highlights because I could not find a live stream of the US Open anywhere, but we'll get to that. So I'm looking at the LPGA Classic. It ended up being a playoff between Woad and Yamashita, which Yamashita came out on top. But sitting 3 back was Cassie Porter. And I have to say, I'm loving watching the progression of her career. She didn't have a stellar amateur career back in Australia. She won some junior events, won like the Northern Territory Amateur, won maybe a Capera Bowl, but nothing really beyond that. She wasn't really on anyone's radar. She was playing in the same era as someone like Grace Kim, who was an absolute standout, and Steph Kyriakou, who, won the Bonneville Classic as an amateur in her career, just jetted off in her professional status. Cassie turned professional in 2021. She then joined the Epson in 2023. She had her first maiden win only in 2024, and she earned her LPGA card for qualifying last year, and from there has had just exceptional starts and exceptional finishes. She's T34 on the Chevron. She didn't get a start in the US Open, which honestly I was very disappointed in. I think that course would have suited her to a T. But I think Cassie Porter, for me, she just stood out when I watch her, and I think her game is just trending. After the Aussie Open and after that lowest round and round 4 and watching her play, she hits the ball magnificently. She puts the lights out. I think she's someone we've got to watch out for on the LPGA. I think she's one of those emerging players that has kind of come out of nowhere almost, but I think if we were watching her on the Epson, we wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, well identified, Soph. And of course, Grace Kim finished in a tie for 7th in that event. Karis Davison just outside the top 10 in a tie for 12th as well. The women had an amazing week, and our focus is probably going to be, from an Australian perspective, on how poor the men were at Shinnecock Hills. But on the European Tour, Kristen Rudgley and Justice Bozio have both finished in a tie for 5th at 7 under at the Dutch Ladies Open. And then in the Epson Tour, Jennifer Elliott and her own Caitlin Pearce have done very well as well. We'll talk about Caitlin Pearce a little bit later on in the show. Great Sophie star. I'm moving away from golf for Ben's best. I do want to talk up South Australia or Adelaide Thunderbirds netball coach Tanya Obst, who has just steered the Adelaide Thunderbirds through to the 3rd Super Netball Grand Final in 4 seasons. Quite incredible for South Australian netball and where she took this team over from 6 years ago when they were I think they'd lost something like 29 games straight, Sophie, when she first took them over. They were a complete basket case, and she has turned them into a powerhouse. And I was just thinking about, where does she sit right now in and amongst the modern era of great National League coaches? Malcolm Blight coached 2 premierships in 2 years with the Adelaide Crows and then was done 2/3 of the way through the 3rd year. We've seen the Adelaide Giants win 3 titles in 4 years. Jan Sterling with the Adelaide Lightning in the 90s won 4 titles in 5 years. But Tanya Obst is heading towards becoming, in my, not just a guess or an estimation, but, I think there's a lot of evidence to back it up, that she might be the number 1 coach any sport in South Australia right now. Ryan Harrison, the South Australian cricket team, might have cause to put their hand up and say, we're coming for that title. What she has done is absolutely unprecedented. They beat the Melbourne Vixens in Adelaide on the weekend, and they'll play the grand final, which will be in Melbourne in 2 weeks' time. But I just think it is quite amazing for someone who, is hardly a household name to have taken this club from the depths of despair and turned them into the number 1 powerhouse club in the competition, with all of the disadvantages that come with being a bit of a have-not club from Adelaide. It is absolutely remarkable. She was inducted as a legend of the Contacts Netball Club Hall of Fame a couple of weeks ago, alongside my father, Soph. Just a little bit of a plug for Dad there. But Tanya Obst is Ben's best for this week, and we look forward to seeing the Thunderbirds in action in the grand final in a fortnight's time. The US Open. Shinnecock Hills was, I guess, an absolute highlight, but it is Wyndham Clark who wins by 1 after holding on. He had a 6-stroke lead going into the final round. That lead was down to 1 stroke after 7 holes, but he found a way to get it done. Let's just start with Wyndham Clark. What did you make of his performance?
Well, it was incredible, leading wire to wire in a US Open. That doesn't actually often happen. It's incredible.
Only the 8th person in history, Soph, and
Yep.
one of those was Tiger Woods, who did it twice. So yeah, it is a rare stat.
He's definitely your unexpected winner. I don't think anyone had Wyndham Clark written down as who they thought would be the person to stand the test. That was definitely Shinnecock. It was a bit softer at the start, Thursday to Friday. I don't think they got the wind that they really anticipated, but by Saturday, Sunday, that had some serious teeth. And I think I was impressed with his final round because it was an absolute train wreck. He kept double crossing himself, trying to hit cuts and straight pulls. It was like watching, well, not quite like watching one of us play golf, because he was hitting the ball an absolute mile. But
You play better than that, to be fair.
I don't know about that. But it was really like a gutsy final round. I mean, that birdie on 16
Yep.
was just like a menace birdie. And then to follow it up with a 3-putt on 17, it was like a train wreck waiting to happen. And I really, when he shot his approach shot on 18 and was left with about a 30-footer, I thought, oh my God, this could be another 3-putt. But then he perfectly lagged it to a foot like he'd been doing for the first 3 days. I don't actually know still what to make of it, because then watching someone like Sam Burns play their final round, who I'm sure we'll get to, I mean, I'm obviously happy for Wyndham Clark, but it was just a weird final round that just didn't feel like the winner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but he'd done it all in the first 3 days, really, hadn't he?
Yeah.
So took advantage of being on the right side of the draw late day 1, early day 2, and then maintained that lead from there. Excellent ball striking day 1 and day 2. Day 3, when it was tough, his scrambling was excellent. And then, yes, he had some shots to spare, and yes, he needed them. But you identified the 16th hole, Soph. He hit that deep into rough left off the tee, and it was Bones Mackay, who was the old Phil Mickelson caddy, who was out on the grounds there. He described the lie as horrendous and said he'd be lucky to move it 50 yards. Well, he moved it 150 yards and got himself into position to be able to attack that green, and then made an incredibly good putt from the back edge, up and over a slope and back down. You know as well as anyone how difficult those putts are, where they've got 2 breaks, if you like. So that was coming up the slope, and then it got over the slope and came back down. And to judge that speed, it fell in the front door. And to make birdie from where he was off the tee was pretty incredible. Gave him that little bit of breathing room. Did think after 3 putting on 17, and he left himself a very similar putt on 18, that, oh my goodness, this for the US Open, it's the last thing you want. But left it absolutely dead, and he could celebrate with 1 stroke to make. And we will talk about the crowd, and they were very, very hard on him. He isn't particularly well liked, and there are a number of reasons for that. Do you think that the treatment of him from the public and from the media has been too harsh?
What I will say is, I had to listen to it on the radio, his final round.
Yeah.
And that's actually no joke. And you could hear the crowd through the radio.
Yeah.
And I I'm not a fan of crowds having personal goes at people. Now, he's done some things which make you question his character. He hasn't been the most apologetic. He doesn't really address when he's done something wrong, which is probably why the people turn on him even more, because there's plenty of PGA players, plenty of LPGA players who've done something bad and they just come out and they address it, and the audience respects that and spectators respect that. The media respects that. I think the media, if anything, they've been harsh on him, but even this week they've started to get on the defense of him, thinking that the spectatorship of New York was way too harsh.
Mm.
And I mean, I've got to say, even watching Rory McIlroy in some of the highlights, Rory McIlroy from the New York crowd was getting some heat, and I've got to say it must be coming from the Ryder Cup last year, because the spectatorship there was absolutely disgusting what the European team had to deal with. Look, I'm not a Wyndham Clark fan. I don't particularly like his presses. I thought his presser at the end of this round was very good. He dealt with the crowds really well, which is a real positive, because he was getting some serious heat, and the calls coming weren't, your standard go in the rough or something like that. They were really personal, and I'm just not a fan of that. I think I'm all for rooting against people and rooting with people in sport. That's what sport is. If you're an athlete, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with people who might not like how you play golf. I mean, Scotty Scheffler's number one in the world, but a lot of people don't root for him. A lot of people do root for him. It's natural, but once it starts to get personal, that's where I start to draw the line, and we don't need to be putting people down like that.
Yeah, you did well to pick that up. If you only listen to stuff on radio, I did sit through his entire press conference, and it does look like he's growing up, Soph. So, yeah, there's been some terrible behaviour from him, most notably 12 months ago at Oakmont when he smashed up one of the lockers and seemed to really struggle to take any sense of responsibility for it. But he does seem to have really accepted that as a criticism that's warranted. And I think he tolerated the fans really well. Most people were very, very upset, certainly on the broadcast, with how he was being treated.
Mm.
But I just felt like, as distinct from what we saw post Oakmont, in the aftermath of this event, he was very comfortable to say, yeah, I deserved the treatment and it's not really who I am, and hopefully I can come out of that a better person. It's going to lead us to where and we might move to it right now, because behaviour has been a bit of a focus of this tournament. What did you make of the 2-stroke penalty that Jarko Niemann received? I tell you what, Soph, I did say he was going to be the most intriguing player in our show last week, and I think I might have landed on that one with everything that played out during the first round, where a 9 that he made on a hole on the back 9 was turned into an 11 after receiving a 2-stroke penalty for poor behaviour. What did you make of it?
Or was it? It was 2 balls out of bounds, and then on the 5th shot, he's put it into the native area, tried to claim relief because there were some fire ants there.
Which don't live on Long Island in New York.
Yep, which I thought was great. I thought, this is awesome from a PGA player. It was denied, and then kicked the penalty flag where they'd flagged where his ball was, and then threw the club to get 2 strokes. I mean, look, it's pretty tough to then see where he finished off on the leaderboard after round 4. I think 2 strokes is potentially a little bit too steep, too harsh. Maybe 1 stroke, because I mean, you just have to look at fellow LIV player Tyrrell Hatton, who's throwing clubs left, right and centre and swearing, and I know he gets penalised for those as well, and often they're in the form of a fine when he's playing on the DP World Tour or the PGA Tour, but I think 2 strokes is potentially a bit too harsh. But at the same time, I'm pretty sick of watching these players act like absolute babies on the golf course and throwing clubs. And I mean, it's just a bad look. There were volunteers around. It was in front of a rules official. It's a reaction to a ruling, which I think is disgusting, because what he was trying to pull was disgusting in itself. So look, I think potentially 2 strokes is a little bit harsh, but at the same time, I'm actually really glad that the PGA penalised him, because kids are watching that. And if kids are watching that, when they go and play amateur level, they're going to start throwing clubs because they think that that's what they can do. And I don't think we penalise throwing clubs enough when it comes to the amateur level and swearing and foul language. I know if we play some of our amateur events like SA Classic, we often get tee boxes broken in half, and there's normally an email after day 1 having to tell us to stop doing it. And I think, well, if they're watching it on the PGA Tour and they're not getting penalised, they're probably thinking that's what the acceptable behaviour is. So I'm actually really happy to see a penalty. Maybe 2 strokes is too harsh, maybe 1 stroke, but I mean, it was pretty gross behaviour.
Fair enough, Soph. Let's talk about the course. What did you make of it? It was an incredible test. I was just thinking to myself, imagine if that was your home course and it played anything like that in the wind and the conditions you get. I mean, you'd come home and, you'd walk into the bar with your mates afterwards. They say, how'd you play? And you say, yeah, I played absolutely brilliantly, had 22 points. It just looks like there is nastiness everywhere on that course. And I just wonder how it is set up for the Shinnecock Hills membership. But what did you make of it, in particular as a US Open test?
Oh, well, it was brutal, but it's exactly what I expect of a US Open test. I mean, everyone was talking about how wide the fairways were, but you factor in the wind, and those fairways ain't wide at all. I mean,
Bit of slope too.
yeah, a bit of slope. You really had to get on the right side to attack certain pins. I thought, first 2 days I was a little bit disappointed. So many people coming under par. I mean, we've got to look at Burns' first round, 6 under, like you said. He was on the right side of the field, but a lot of people were on the right side of the field, and he was the only one to go out there and shoot 6 under. But by the time it got to the Saturday and the Sunday and the wind picked up, it was just completely brutal. You were rewarded for hitting fairways. Players were still able to get a little bit of spin. But at the same time, if you were in the rough, I mean, people were hitting gap wedges. Scotty Scheffler was hitting gap wedges to not even on the outskirts of on the fringe of the greens and still bouncing over into bunkers. I mean, it was an incredible test. I loved watching Shinnecock. That's my kind of golf. It's linksy. The wind becomes a massive factor. The shaping of the balls. I mean, we spoke about Wyndham Clark was struggling to hit cuts and draws, and it showed today. Whilst in the first 3 days he was exceptional. So I loved it. I thought it was great. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I didn't mind that they set the greens up slow. I was probably a bit disappointed with how soft they set them up. They were extraordinarily receptive in the first couple of days, and that was always in part because we know how long it takes to play 18 holes of golf under championship conditions at a US Open or an event like this, 156 players, and to get them around the course in time, I think you obviously have to make some compromises now. I do feel like that there is, and we've probably even seen it, Soph, with the way that they changed the rules on the rollback, which is clearly PGA Tour and professional golfer driven. I do feel like that professional players are having far too much say in the way courses are set up and the way the rules are being written. I think that's going to be a problem long term. And so I do feel like the players had their thumb on the scales here and the USGA just wasn't really prepared to fight them. And they've had some issues at Shinnecock Hills before. So look, all in all, when you look at the fact that what was there, 3 guys under par for the entire event, you can't say it was too easy. Certainly the prevailing conditions with the wind certainly had more of an effect on that probably than the course did. But in the end, it was a great test. It was probably a little bit unfortunate that Wyndham Clark, who got the right side of the draw and made the most of it to the extent that a 6-shot lead going into the final round probably didn't give you quite the theatre that you were hoping. Certainly 7 or 8 holes in, when he'd frittered most of that lead away, it certainly got interesting over the course of the back 9. But yeah, I just felt like it was a great test, but I didn't really feel like it was a great tournament. And I don't know that I hold the course responsible for that, but it just felt like I never really felt engrossed in this tournament like perhaps I have done with a couple of the majors already this year. So don't know if that's a positive or a negative, and I don't know if that leans on Shinnecock Hills, but that's how I felt about it. Let's talk about the contenders. I'll go through some names and you can just very quickly tell me if they should sleep soundly tonight or if they should be a little bit disappointed with the outcome. Sam Burns shot 67 today to finish 1 stroke behind the winner on 3 under.
I don't think he's going to sleep soundly, but that was an exceptional round. He was one of the few players that shot under par on the final day. It was incredible. He was on fire, but I think he's going to be dreaming about that putt on 18. He had a 9-iron from 200 yards and put it to about 10 foot, and it just sat on the edge, and you could just see straight away he knew Wyndham Clark had that par 5 coming up, which was definitely gettable. He birdied it himself in exceptional style. So I don't think he's going to sleep soundly, but he really should. That was an exceptional finish, and it did what you wanted it to do in terms of the tournament was pretty boring up until 7 holes in on round 4, and all of a sudden Sam Burns is firing at all cylinders and Wyndham Clark is not, and he's actually the reason the US Open became what it was.
The thing about Sam Burns, in tears in his press conference, Soph. So 2 years in a row, right in the mix, late in a US Open. It just certainly proves to me that he's one of the great putters in world golf right now, and proves to me that he is someone who we're going to see threaten for a major in the years to come. Tom Kim shot even today for 1 under, a guy who really showed something in his early days, has been off the radar a little bit in the last 2 years, but an impressive performance from him.
Yeah, an exceptional performance, but the only thing that I cannot get over is the massive fist pump on 18 that he pulled off. I think he birdied 18 to shoot 2 under, and I just thought there's already someone in at 3 under. I don't know
Yes.
if it warrants the full-blown fist pump. I just cannot get around Tom Kim. I do like a bit of character, but part of me is like, oh, it's a little bit of carry on. So look, for the fist pump on 18 to finish, well, in the end, to finish third, I just can't. No, I'm gonna say you're not sleeping well tonight, mate. You've got to rein that in a little bit.
Scotty Scheffler was in the final group, shot 1 over today to finish at even par and in a tie for 4th.
Birthday boy, Scotty Chef.
Yeah,
Actually, Tom
30th
Kim was
birthday.
also the birthday boy. 30th birthday, and he was going for the Grand Slam in his career. Listen to a presser at the beginning, and he's going to start getting, the Rory McIlroy treatment when it came to the Masters, and he was trying to go for the Grand Slam, and I'm sure that Scotty Scheffler, it's going to get to him eventually. But I found his presser interesting. They obviously brought it up, going for the Grand Slam, and he kind of addressed it and said, "Look, you know, I don't really care about that. If this is the career that I had, if I'd known this was the career I was going to have as an amateur, I would have been thrilled. I would have been pumped. If anyone else was saying that, like Rory McIlroy was saying that, I would have said, absolutely not. That's not how you feel." I thought when he said it, I was like, I think Scotty is that kind of person, that he is so comfortable within his own that that kind of thing doesn't get to him. But watching him play this tournament, and he did not have his best, and he finished T4, which is incredible, not having your best. I think the Grand Slam means a little bit more to him than he lets on, and his game was just not there. And for world number 1 and someone who was dominating throughout the whole of this season, it's not quite what I expected from him. So I'm a little bit disappointed in Scotty Scheffler, if I'm honest.
Matthew Fitzpatrick was right at it after 36 holes. He shoots 74, 73 across the weekend to finish at 3 over and in 22nd position. He was your pick at the start of the week. What did you make of his weekend?
Completely disappointed. That was horrible to watch, an absolute train wreck. As soon as the course got hard, which is where I thought Matt Fitzpatrick would really step up to the plate, he completely hopped on as conductor of the bogey train, and it was terrible to see. His brother, on the other hand, Alex Fitzpatrick, great showing. He finished just behind him, but I think that's incredible for the young man. So my Fitzpatricks, I think Alex is sleeping well, but I would be severely disappointed if I was Matt Fitzpatrick going into that tournament playing as well as he was. But as soon as the conditions got tough, he just couldn't come up to the task.
I'd just like to touch on a couple of the big name live guys who both missed the cut. Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm. Bryson finished at 5 over, so missed on the number, and John Rahm was 1 stroke further back at 6 over. Gee, another disappointing performance from 2 guys that historically have been right in the mix in these sorts of tournaments.
Yeah, it is disappointing, isn't it? But I mean, there's so much commentary on the fact that live courses are set up way too easy, and as soon as they get to a hard course, they can't compete. I mean, everyone keeps talking about it, and I can definitely see it. But I mean, at the same time, you've got to look at the players like Rory McIlroy, who plays on the PGA Tour consistently, and as soon as this course came up, he didn't have his best stuff, and he couldn't compete at it. I mean, Bryson going into this tournament, we knew he didn't have his best stuff. Even on the live tour, it's not looking good. So I mean, I find it hard to consistently blame the course setup at live, and then as soon as you get onto a tough course, you can't do it. Because I mean, there's a lot of PGA players that didn't have their shit together. I probably shouldn't say that on the pod. Can we swear on the pod, Ben?
Yeah, go on. We'll just add it to. We'll make it an adults only edition, M plus or something.
It's 7 a.m. here in Malta, so cut me some slack. I've been up at 6 trying to catch up. But anyway.
To be fair, you dropped the S word about 10 seconds in when we woke you up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're in Norway only last week. So the fact that you've gone 24 minutes before dropping it this time, we're fine. Keep moving.
I've done pretty well. Anyway, well, I've lost my train of thought now. But disappointed from the live players. They're never really on my radar anymore. I know Neiman was on yours, but I do think I watched them play, those classic American courses that is all bomb and gouge, and they've always got wedge in their hands. And if you're not getting that experience and you're not getting that practice and playing tough courses, it is hard to then go and play one all of a sudden in your US Open and try and compete. But I mean, I also think maybe they just didn't have their best stuff because, I mean, we can't negate that Bryson won a US Open only 2 years ago in exceptional fashion, and he was playing on the Live Tour then. So what really is the difference?
Yeah, no, your point's well made. I mean, I do think that there is something to be said for you play an event where you make little mistakes and you don't get punished for them. And when you are getting punished for them, it's just difficult to deal with that in a rational, calm manner. And I do think that stands out. But at the same time, Rory McIlroy, a favourite of yours, he really did kick the can away over the course of the weekend, turned little mistakes into big mistakes and finished in a tie for 32nd alongside Dustin Johnson. So, yeah, a little bit each way there. We can't wrap up without talking about the Aussies. Jason Day withdrew in the second round. The other four missed the cut. What did you make?
I mean, it's hard to see when what we spoke about at the top of the show, so many of our Australian women, and to be fair, the future of our Australian women when we're looking at the Epson Tour and we're looking at the Let Access Tour and we're looking at those rookies like Cassie Porter and the LPGA Tour, and they're all starting to step up to the plate. And something with the women is just working at the moment, and I'm not at all worried about what happens when Hannah Green and Minjee Lee start to enter the end of their career, which they're far off from, by the way. But the future of the women as Aussies just looks incredible, and I'm seeing future major winners in there, which is a big thing to say, but I really do. I think their games are exceptional. I mean, even looking at Steph Kyriakou, who's struggling a little bit at the moment, but I don't see her not coming back from where she is at the moment. I know she's working on some things. And then to turn the page and look at our men's golf, and one, there wasn't many men. What was there, 5 in the US Open field, and not a single one made the cut. And there was not a single really up and comer. They're all names that I'm very familiar with. Adam Scott is entering the end of his career. It's exceptional that he's even still playing. Jason Day has been battling a back injury for years and is struggling, and of that older generation. And then we're looking at some other people like Cam Smith and Lucas Herbert, and I cannot say that they're probably the future of Australian golf at the moment, because one, they're names that I've been seeing for a long time. So look, I'm a little bit worried, if I'm honest, Ben. I'm not seeing a future major winner from our men, and whilst I'm already seeing one from the women, and maybe that's in 5-10 years, but I can see where that path is leading us, but I cannot see where the future of Aussie men's golf is going at the moment. And it's a little bit disappointing. And it's sad to say, because there are some exceptional golfers coming through for the men's. I mean, Elvis Smiley and all of them are exceptional, but they're just not quite at that level yet, which is a bit sad to see.
Elvis Smiley and Carl Phillips are the two that I think you would probably identify and say that in the next 3 to 5 years, but they're not even getting into these tournaments yet. And there's no guarantee that they ever will. You have to play exceptionally well in the right events, and you've got to get into the right events before you even start, or you've got to be very, very good for a sustained period of time to get your ranking up enough that you can get into these sorts of things. Of course, there's a big cloud over what's going on with Liv, and so therefore that does affect where Elvis Smiley is going to be playing his golf long term going forward. And it's very, very difficult. And yeah, I agree with you. It's really murky to see where our next major winner is coming from. Minwoo Lee may completely surprise me and turn his game around and find a way to perform on difficult courses over 72 holes, but all evidence suggests that is beyond him right now. Cameron Smith, the funk return, he was disappointing. Lucas Herbert looked okay, but again, I think he's a victim of those courses that are a little bit too early. And Adam Scott, well, he's in the twilight of his career. I think it would be fanciful to suggest that he's going to win another major, so that's going to be a watch going on for a while. So if I just want to share with you a couple of cute little sideline stories that I thought played out. Wyndham Clark walked off the 72nd green, celebrated with his family. And on the way to the scorer's hut, Aaron Rai was there to congratulate him, which I thought was a beautiful moment, the man who won the PGA Championship. So that was, it just once again showed what a classy human being that Aaron Rai is. Miles Russell is an amateur who finished the tournament at 7 over. He played 71 holes with his caddy and then secretly arranged with the USGA to be able to hand the caddy bib from his caddy to his father. It's Father's Day in the US, of course, on the Sunday, and so his dad caddied for him on the final hole. So what a beautiful little moment that was. And then I thought the other story that was fascinating is Keith Mitchell finished at even par, having shot even past 70 on all 4 days, and that included a second round where he went out in 41 and back in 29. So, and that's the first time anyone's ever shot even par all 4 rounds of a major tournament. So I thought a couple of cool little stories just to share with our listeners. So if we're running a little bit over time here, and I'm conscious that you've got a boat to catch, but Caitlin Pearce was in excellent form once again at the Great Lakes Championship. She posted 5 under in her final round to finish in a tie for ninth. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's incredible. Caitlin Pearce, what does that leave her? Is it at about 23 on the Epson Tour, trying to qualify for an LPGA card, which needs to get to top 15? Look, I think probably going to require a win to get there. There's a lot of people up there that are performing exceptionally, and she's a little bit far back. So she's looking like if she wants to get her LPGA card, she's going to have to go through the qualifying, which is incredibly hard and incredibly difficult. But she proved in 2024 that she's definitely somewhere up for the task. She came very close to getting her LPGA card. It's how she got her Epson status. And look, super impressive. She was close to winning one of these things back, 2-3 months ago, and just had a bit of a rocky final round and didn't get it over the line. But she is proving that she is a contender on the Epson Tour, and she's capable of shooting those low rounds, which is really what you need to do. We just need to get her doing it in the Epson Tour, all 54 holes, Ben.
Great performance from her. The 5 under was fantastic. She went from the second hole through the 7th hole in 6 under, so that was 4 birdies and an eagle. Just wobbled a little bit coming home, had 1 birdie and 2 bogeys. But yeah, as you said, third now in the race for the card, top 15 at the end of the year, get onto the LPGA Tour in 2027. I just checked through. She's entered the next 4 tournaments, Soph, so this is a real sustained burst for her. There's only 1 week off in and amongst all of that. So, yeah, as you identified, if we could see her maybe fighting her way through for a win, that would be fantastic. Crystal Blum at the Ladies German Challenge. She was really in contention here, started the week well, just wobbled a little bit late. I think she shot 5 over on the final day for a 6 over, finished in a tie for 44, so certainly no disgrace for her, but I think she will have thought that with where she was 1 under at the end of day 1, that she was right in with a chance here. The one thing you would say about Crystal, and I'm not asking you to identify this with her, but the one thing you'd say about Crystal is when a round does waver a bit, it can get away from her a little. I don't want you to give Crystal advice, but just for listeners who, and it certainly happens to me, so if I'm renowned for, if I make a couple of mistakes, I can really let them compound. Is there stuff that you've done in your elite amateur career where you've been able to sort of mentally find your way through when you don't have your best stuff? What can you sort of think about? What can you do to try and survive posting an 85 like I potentially can?
Well, I don't know if I'm any expert on that. I've definitely been the captain of the bogey train multiple times when you just get on the string and you can't seem to get your way out. And it almost feels like, it's not going fast, but it almost feels like when you start to compound those bogeys that everything is just happening so quickly, or even on the one hole when a bad shot turns into triple so quickly and you don't know what's going on. It's really hard to draw yourself out of it. I mean, I definitely am not an expert. I've been on that side of things. I've been also on the side of things, being able to draw myself out of it. And it's a really good experience and it feels really good when you're doing it. I mean, the easiest thing that I can say is go to a sports site, because that's exactly what I did. And it's a lot of breathing exercises. It's, you know what, having a good caddy or having good players that you're playing with, being able to chat to them and get yourself out of it and stop focusing on what's actually happening around you and start focusing on the things that you can control, which is really just your mind. The compounding errors is really easy to do. Sometimes, particularly some of us golfers always want to go for glory, but if you actually watch the US Open, a lot of them weren't. A lot of it is just, chipping out sideways and getting yourself back into a position and making those grungy bogeys, because sometimes they can feel like birdies. So it's really hard when a round is getting away from you. It's, I think, the toughest thing to do. It's easier when you're hopping onto a birdie train and it feels like you can't go wrong and the hole looks like a massive bucket. But when it's getting around from you, for me, it's slowing it down, and often it's talking. Funny enough, it's probably why I'm on a podcast, because talking is what normally gets me out of it.
Soph, always great to chat with you. Love the way you can break down a big tournament like the US Open. Back on Thursday, you're in Malta now. Have you got anywhere else, any other exotic countries to travel before you make your way home?
No, Malta's my last stop, unfortunately. I'm a little bit sad it's coming to an end so quickly, but I'm scared for hell for work in a week's time now, which is now, unfortunately, the clock started for when I have to go back to work.
Can I just share with you, now last week I said I was a little bit concerned about the Mount Osmond Golf Club's use of AI on their Facebook account. Can I just say that things haven't dried up over the last week? Can I just share with you the post from 3 days ago on the Mount Osmond Golf Club Facebook page with an historic photo, which is a beautiful photo, I might add. Just a hillside. This is the words. Just a hillside towering gums, and a remarkable crowd gathered on the mount. One of the striking things about these early photos is the turnout. People lined the slopes, dressed for the occasion, following the action across the course. Golf at Mount Osmond wasn't simply a game being played, it was already becoming a social occasion, a gathering place, a part of Adelaide life. A powerful reminder that community has been woven into the Mount from the very beginning. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, we got one just 20 hours ago. Fairways above the city, morning light over Adelaide, greens, clubhouse, and a perspective that never quite loses its magic. Just another day on the Mount. Now, Soph, it's their second warning. Come on, speak English, please, people. We don't need to hear all this gobbledygook written by all of the tools that's come from Elon Musk and all of his rich AI friends. Just give us some normal stuff, please. Is that fair? Am I asking too much?
Look, if I was Mount Osmond, I'd keep going because I like seeing you get all riled up. So Mount Osmond, for me, keep going. I'm loving it.
So if you keep going, you have a great remainder of your holiday. And this time next week, we'll lock horns and we'll both be in Adelaide. Looking forward to it. I would have loved to have given you some scores from yesterday's Varden at the Vines of Ranella. The senior Order of Merit is on today, also at the Vines. Can you believe we're, best part of 24 hours in, still no scores available. So, that's a little bit disappointing. Would love to have been able to share what's going on with you, but it seems like the wheels of getting the scores into the computer system proving a little bit complicated today, so we'll deal with that another time. So have a great trip. We'll see you when you get back.
Thanks, man.
With the last putt sunk, that's a wrap on this golf edition of Hooked on Sport. Thanks for listening. Help us meet more golfers just like you by following us and leaving a review. We look forward to your company on the next golf edition of Hooked on Sport.